My name is Michael Laughlin. I will be 67 years old in February, so almost there. And my wife, Lisa, and I live in Western Washington State. My connection with pH is I've worked for an insurance company, and my job over the years has been traveling throughout the U.S. as part of a catastrophe team, gone 30 days, home for 6 days, and then over and over. A first indication that something was wrong was in 2016. I was on one of those trips in Texas and found that I couldn't walk across an inclined parking lot about 100 yards across there without getting out of breath, which was really surprising. That was my first indication that I had pH. I always walk a couple miles a day, steep hills. We live in an area that's remote and with a lot of big hills. And I've always exercised and stuff, so that I thought I was getting out of shape. And here I am, just traveling and not keeping up with things. At that point, when I came home from one of the trips, I started going to my normal doctor, telling him about it. And of course, my family has a history of heart problems, and that was the first thing they thought was wrong with me. I went to numerous doctors at that point. I was checked for allergies, asthma, heart disease. Didn't find out anything that was wrong with me, although I went through all those, started taking allergy shots. I tried to work out a little more. I thought I was just out of shape. See if I could do a little better job of getting back into shape. It was frustrating. After, I'd say, several doctors, I was getting frustrated, and they'd say, well, why are you here? There's nothing wrong with you. I said, I can't breathe. That's why. I was at that point, but I was back home from traveling. That was in the summer of 2016. In January of 2017, I realized I couldn't walk the hills in my neighborhood anymore. I could only walk a short distance and only on a flat surface. It was weird. I just thought I was getting old or something. It was hard for me to understand because I've been doing this for a long time, walking those hills for years. I got more and more tired, out of breath. In October of 2017, my wife and I were sitting in our house upstairs, just sitting and talking in the evening. I got up and left the room, and I didn't even know this happened. The next thing, I could hear her talking to me and saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Kind of touching my face. I'd passed out, and I was laying in the doorway there of the room, but what a strange feeling. Just like similar to when I'd had surgeries before and been put to sleep, and I just woke up from it. So that was kind of disappointing, too, because I was scheduled for shoulder surgery in about a month from them, and they canceled it until they wanted to find out why I had passed out like that. It was a surprising deal. So a few days after that, I went to a hospital emergency room and told them everything that happened, went through a whole battery of tests, and was told that there was nothing wrong with me, and occasionally people just faint. And I didn't have to worry about it, even though they did a whole battery of tests on me, though, to make sure, and found nothing wrong. That was kind of the end of that, but I kept getting more tired, and I couldn't walk very far. Eventually, it got to the point where we have about 16 stairs in our house going upstairs. I'd have to stop halfway up and wait maybe a minute and then finish going up the stairs. I started getting lightheaded when I was driving my cars. And late in December 2017, we were with some friends, went out to dinner, and on the drive home from there, we knew something was wrong with me. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't concentrate. I was lightheaded. We knew something wasn't good. So a few days later, went to a hospital emergency room again, and we had to park at the door because I couldn't walk far enough from the parking lot to get in. At that emergency room, after they did a bunch of tests, and I was there about 2 hours, someone came in and told my wife and I, said, "Has anyone ever told you you're in heart failure before?" And of course I said, "No." She said, "Well, you are." And so that was a shock. I already had an appointment set up with my cardiologist like maybe a month or two ahead, but they called him from the hospital, told him about me, and they moved up my appointment. So next day or so I went to see the cardiologist. They scheduled me for both the right and left heart catheterization and went back into the hospital and had that done on January 29th of 2018. We really expected I was going to hear that I had heart problems because my family is known for that, but I have avoided it. I've done all the things you're supposed to do, and I have never had a heart problem. They did the catheterizations while I was still in the room having it done. The cardiologist went out into the waiting room and told my wife, well, good news, your husband doesn't have any coronary problems. The bad news, he has severe PH. We didn't even know what that was. So Lisa looked it up online while I was still in the room trying to figure out what it was. When a little later they let her come in the room to see me, she told me that that's what I had. I had no clue. From there, I went to a pulmonologist and I was put on oxygen and oral medication and stuff. I went on medical leave from my job. I've been my job with an insurance company doing this traveling and catastrophe things, which I really like to do. I've been with them for over 20 years. After I started the medicine and went on medical leave, it took a long time to see any difference. I actually got worse for the next couple of months. Couldn't stand up to get dressed. I had to sit down to put my clothes on. If I sat on the edge of the bed in the morning, a couple of times I fell out onto the floor. Things like that. It was a little bit depressing. But after a few months of the medicine, I started getting better and I went back to work, but I couldn't do the things I used to do. I couldn't travel and do that. So I worked a few months more and then went back on medical leave. And I retired from my job in September of 2019. That wasn't my plan, but I had to. They didn't want me driving their cars anymore. Right now, I'm still on the medication, oral medication. I don't have to use oxygen 24 hours a day. I have a portable concentrator that I use for walking on the big hills and stuff. I'm a whole lot better than I used to be, just in a little bit of a state of limbo, wondering what happens next and stuff. It was very difficult to find out what was wrong with me. I went to everyone that they sent me to. I would guess probably 6 or 8 different doctors or specialists with the same thing. And I remember being in a hallway at one of the places saying how frustrating. And they have you blowing in this thing and checking your heart and saying, I just can't breathe. That's my problem. I don't know how else to describe it to you, but it took a long time. If I hadn't passed out that time, things like that, I don't think anyone still would have told me what was wrong. No one even had a clue. I'm a lot better right now. The medicine that I'm taking and stuff, it's put me almost back to being normal. Mine is not progressing as fast as some people from what the pulmonologist tells me. Our life is somewhat normal. We just have an uncertainty because we don't know how it's going to go, but we do. And even though I had to retire, we intend to do more things. We're actually looking at maybe doing a little bit of traveling around the country with not an airplane, but just driving and stuff and seeing some of our relatives and stuff. And I'm back to relatively normal activities at this point. I'm an auxiliary officer at a local police department and helping there and doing things like that in the teen center, working with the youth at the police department. So we feel almost normal, but we just have a little uncertainty because we don't know what's going to happen. Only one thing that really sticks to me is that how important it's going to be for anyone else who gets diagnosed that you find the right doctor who knows about it. Because so many of them, when I would tell someone after I was diagnosed and they went for some other procedure, they didn't know what I was talking about. But this particular doctor, everything that I needed, it would be something that my insurance, of course, would say no. And whatever I needed, this guy told my wife and I, he goes, that's okay. Just give me a little bit of time, and like a portable oxygen concentrator, things like that. The insurance will say, no, you don't need it. It's just an extra. You got the metal bottles and stuff. He did it approved and fairly quickly. He said, I'll make sure they understand it's going to be better for them and cheaper for them to do what I want to do and stuff. That was the first doctor that did that. He got everything done. So that's an important thing for people to look for. They need to get the right doctor. My name is Michael Laughlin, and I'm aware that I'm rare.